Yeah, you can probably hear her huffing and puffing in the background. She's a bulldog.
Oh, we've had bulldogs. Yeah, we had bulldogs growing up.
Live.
And welcome to Kindasound Radio this morning on the Reality Bite Show. And my guest with me this morning, Jonny Darton. Jonny, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Wen. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So a little bit about Jonny. So Jonny's an MC from Bristol who was introduced to conscious hip hop by KRS-One, who inspired him basically to pursue lyricism. That word, I can't believe you put that one in there this morning. I was thinking, oh, how do I say that? And then growing his awareness of reality. And he did a track called Never Get the Vaccine, which gained a lot of support in the US. And his music is basically aimed at helping people challenge perception. And I love this because I think challenging perception is the one thing we all need to do if we're ever going to create any change in anything, not just what's happening at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's. I think awareness is super important. I think with these times such that they are now, like things are moving so fast. It's just that growing. Oh, what's happening here? What's going on? And figuring it out. It's just so important. And once you kind of get into it, and we're old hands at this. Like we know what's going on, or we think we do to a certain level. But once you know what's going on, you can't go back. No,
it's like opening Pandora's box, isn't it? Once it's opened, the lid can't go back on it.
Yeah, exactly that. There's no way back now. We're in it now.
As I say, the show's like Reality Bites, so I like to have a look at someone's life of how they got to where they are today. So your early because obviously we all develop our perceptions of life based on, the environment we grow up in, our parents, caregivers, siblings, school. How was your experience of life in the sort of early days of Jonny then? Parentally wise, school wise, what was your education like and your life education at home?
So education, I was a little bit hyperactive as a young kid. I wasn't allowed to have like the E numbers, the blue Smarties and that kind of thing, because I'd go a bit mental. I'm actually a little bit, if it's obvious, but I'm a little bit on the spectrum as well. So I'm kind of a little bit, I think that's where some of the musical stuff comes from and the lyrical sort of ability, but I'm a little bit socially, maybe socially awkward or whatever. But I think a lot of people are, but we kind of define ourselves in these ways, don't we? And we give ourselves these labels. But as far as education, I was good at school, I was, got good grades and all that, but I'd mess around. I'd get detentions, and there were these huts which they made into classrooms called terrapins, and we'd hide under them and like jump out of the teachers and that kind of thing, jump out of the trees, all that kind of madness. So I did well at school, but it didn't kind of, it didn't sort of entertain me. It didn't give me enough stimulus to kind of keep my mind going. I think a lot. I'm very kind of, looking at the world and thinking what's going on all the time. So it didn't really keep that going, really.
I think that's quite an interesting sort of comment to start on. I heard, who was I listening to the other? I think I was listening to Jordan Peterson the other day. He's a Canadian psychologist, fascinating bloke, like very, very aware of everything that's happening, but just all the aspects of human behaviour through like a psychologist perspective. And he was talking about kids in school with all the rays of ADHD, autism, all this sort of thing. And he said, the reason children are struggling is because they're not engaged. It's as simple as that. He said, there's barely any physical fitness done nowadays. Everybody's just sat in a classroom, staring at a board, being taught someone's opinion of what they think they should learn. So of course, in those early days, you need inspiring, you need challenging, don't you? Not just sitting in a box, being given labels about who you are and what you do. And that's why I think this is why we're getting such a rise in all of these labelled things that are wrong with people. I don't actually think most people have ADHD and things like that. I think they're just kinesthetic. They need to run about and go and climb a tree.
Yeah, that's the thing. And we all learn in different ways, don't we? And it's all standardized education, which is, they write the things on the board. We have these textbooks and, in the classrooms, I knew my stuff, but translating that onto the exam paper, that's not everyone's strong suit, is it? Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, engagement is everything. People have to have their minds engaged to be able to I was going to say learn information, but information is like, Ford Fiesta 9,999. That's information. It's not knowledge. They're not teaching us knowledge in school. We have to learn knowledge or gnosis for ourselves. They don't teach us knowledge. They're teaching us facts and information, which is a totally different thing to knowledge.
I'm always curious about the facts and information they're teaching us as well, because history, it's just his story, isn't it? It's one man's word of what happened. And it's normally, with anything that happens in history, you get the person who won, if it was a battle, you get the viewpoint of the person who won the battle, which is totally different to the viewpoint of the people who obviously didn't win the battle.
Like on a real one, Wendy, I learned in history, in GCSE history, I learned Britain 1815 to 51. So I learned that vital 36-year period of history in this tiny little island out of all the vast tapestry of human history. We could have studied Mayan
temples or
Africa, Mesopotamia or something, but they teach us just this colonialized misrepresentation of history, which is just bullshit, really. It's just nonsense. I can swear on it, can't I? Can I swear on it?
And yes, you can.
But right. It's it just creates a very blinkered view of existence and reality, so to speak. That's what it is.
Yeah, and the thing is, I learned this years and years ago when I did an NLP practitioner course with a wonderful lady called Catherine Temple. I'm going to give her a big up on it. She used to be one of the presenters on Kindasound. Catherine, though, was what they call an enlightened trainer. And I never really knew what that meant in the title of her name until I went and did a course with her. And she taught us all about energy and about reality and how you create it. And as such, she said, you don't walk around with your brain on a stick outside of you. So that means that all of this information around you comes in through your senses, and then you make sense of it based on what you've been taught and all of your previous experiences. So if you've been taught to stay in a little box, like through your education, through your family life, through whatever, then it's really hard to actually view any more of this information that's coming in outside of that box, because your brain will just dismiss it. It will just go, not relevant, not relevant, not relevant, not relevant. Oh, this is relevant to me. I'll have this bit. So we actually create reality as we go along, but we were never taught that. And I find that fascinating.
That's so true. That's just when you said that, it just came across as super accurate. That's exactly what happens. We've got these filters, haven't we, through which we see reality. Couldn't put it better. Yeah, she's a wise woman.
Sometimes, on the odd occasion.
She knows the game.
It's just one of those things. It fascinates me. I mean, I have a friend who calls it the headucation system, not education, because it's taught to get you out of your heart and sit in your head and do as you're told and react. Like, I know Pavlov's dogs, they say he did the experiment with the bell and the food, but apparently he actually didn't. But if we say, it's like Pavlov's dogs, isn't it? You're taught to go in when they ring a bell, sit down when they ring a bell, stand up, wear what everybody else wears, do as you're told, learn certain types of information. So it doesn't, none of our education system teaches us to be creative really nowadays, or to know the power of the human system. It literally is all just to beat the spirit out of you, as far as I'm concerned anyway.
Yeah, it's pure indoctrination, isn't it? Schools are just indoctrination centres for the workers, aren't they? You've got to know enough to push the buttons and work them. What is it? Know enough to work the machines, but not beat the system, something like that.
Yeah.
That's the game, and it works. It's evident all around us, because the workers they prop up the system, don't they? They the Agent Smith syndrome. The Agent Smiths pop up, don't they? In reality, when you say something outside the narrative, you can't see that. Oh, but you've obviously experienced it. They just pop up because of that. Because that mindset is so propagated, isn't it? Most people have got that mindset. We're still the minority. I know we're growing, but that's the way it is at the moment. say that's the way it is. Like things can change, but there's so many still stuck in that. Let's protect the common narrative system. Protect the status quo.
Yeah, and it's through fear. I always feel that it's been developed through fear. That whole system, it teaches you through fear, not reward, in a weird way, because you're always told what you've got wrong. So you get 80% in a test, but you're still told about the 20% you got wrong. Not, do you know what I mean? So everything's about fear. Do as you're told because of fear. Don't step outside of the system because of fear. I remember I'm going to ask you about your family background. So mine, I grew up in a pub, and my parents are, I would say, pretty aware of most things, to be honest. And we were brought up to know that the police are there to protect and serve. So my dad always said, never be scared of the police. They're always there to help you. You ever get in trouble anywhere, and you know, the first thing you do is phone them, because they're there to serve you as public. So we grew up, you know, everybody's money is the same colour. There's no such word as can't. Help those in need, protect those that can't protect themselves. So all of these things, we sort of grew up in quite an open background, really, and we were pretty much left to ourselves as well. So when mum and dad were working, you know, throughout the day, we'd all be off down the fields, all the kids. Do you know what I mean? Quite resilient, sort of self-regulating in a way. And it was a really nice environment to grow up in. And I always appreciate what my parents put into me and my sister, because then when we got to this point where all this happened in 2020, it wasn't like, oh, we're just going to go with the masses. Both of us, me and my sister, just stopped and went, hang on, what's going on here then? Right. And it was because of, I put this solely down to our upbringing and our parents and how they taught us to question and ask questions. And that's what got me and my sister, I think, into trouble at school a lot, especially me, because I used to ask questions. I'd go, well, why is that? What is that? How does that happen then? I don't see the relevance of that. And then I'd, you know, obviously the teacher wouldn't have an answer for me. So then they'd, you know, it would create an argument and I'd be out of the classroom or something like that. So that's that learning to question. So your family background then, you've heard a little bit about mine. What was yours growing up? Did you grow up in sort of an aware environment or?
Yeah, so my parents were always pretty aware. My whole family is, and I'm quite blessed with that fact, really. My uncle was always, now estranged, like we don't see my uncle now, but he used to bring around, you know, like have you heard of the Nexus magazine? So he'd bring these like weird magazines for my mum to read. We're talking like early 2000s, so this is donkey's years ago. Yeah. And he'd bring like the David Icke books and this kind of thing. So I'd be reading David Icke in 2001, 2002, that kind of thing. So that opened my eyes to a whole nother reality. And he was doing like, it's all the rage now, but he was doing like crystal healing and stuff, and as an actual business in like the early 2000s, when we didn't know anything about this spiritual stuff. And now everyone's on the on the spiritual, not saying like that, but everyone's on the spiritual vibe now, and that seems to be very, you know, up and coming now. But yeah, like I was reading all these weird magazines and books, you know, and then 9/11 happened, and I was like, okay, this is not what they told us. And I was actually aware around the time of the death of Princess Diana. I looked into that, and I was like, hang on, that ain't what they told us either. And then he sort of goes into it. I'm not saying David Icke's right on everything. I'm not saying it's all gospel, but you know, he sort of dissected that whole incident or that whole event in one of his books, and I was like, hang on, looked at the symbolism of things and looked at symbols around me and looked at words and numbers, and I just started looking at life a little bit differently. And I just sort of thought, hang on, there's more to this. There's what we perceive to be reality in plain sight, and then there's the unseen or the esoteric or the hidden realm. And once you get into that, it's, you know, that's perhaps more, to me, it's more important or more prevalent than the 3D, so to speak.
Yeah, if we ever want to get back to full community and back to more abundance for everybody, I think that is a really important aspect that people should be being taught now and being made to become aware of. I mean, I think it is in mainstream media, to be honest, and I don't want to unpack too much on here today, because I do like people to sort of go and wander off and just become curious and go,
Yeah.
you know, what are these people talking about today? But it's the basically what we're talking about is the underpinning of society and what this current society has been built on, which is control and, well, full population control on many different levels for many different reasons. And I was just saying to people, are you actually truly happy doing what you're doing? Are you really, really happy watching what you're watching on the TV? Are you actually paying attention to all of this stuff? And if it's not making you happy, can you not see that there's something underlying behind it and there's a reason for it, just to keep you like in your box and plodding forwards?
Yeah, it's I hope I'm not going a little bit off piste with some of this, or going a bit too
that's okay, we can go where you like.
Complex or too deep. But yeah, I mean, you know, what you see on the telly is just pure propaganda, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's just to promote a certain mindset. You know, like when 9/11 happened, then they go into Iraq, they go to Afghan or whatever they do. It's as a result of that. There's more public support of their actions because of what they've seen on the TV. That's their reality. You know, a plane hit a tower. Oh, it's okay to do this now, in people's opinion.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? And it's just manipulation of consciousness. It's that's all it is. It's dark magic at the end of the day. They show you something and you think it's reality, but you see with more than your eyes. Your eyes, it's not just your eyes that you see with. Your eyes are a limited means of perception. You know, there's so much more out there than just what you see and hear.
Oh, massively. I mean, in the end, like I say, in the energetic realm, we take in, I think the current stats, don't ask me how they measure this stuff, but the current stats are through your senses, you take in 400 billion bits of information per second through your senses. So through like the skin, the hairs on your, you know, all the hairs on your body stand up, don't they, when you have experiences through sound and vibration and many different things. But your conscious brain can only process 2,000 bits a second. So 400 billion bits are coming in, but you can only process 2,000 bits of that. So whatever you've been conditioned in your past is what you're going to be processing. So we're missing so much stuff that could connect us in on different levels. I've always been told this by all of my like great teachers, that the human system is the most powerful supercomputer there is going. And we've never been taught how to use it. It's all that hidden knowledge. And there's a reason for that, because I think we create reality, so we could transform reality. If our mass consciousness came together, we could create change probably in like the blink of an eye, literally.
Literally. That's it.
That powerful. So put the love out there. Nice time to do this one then. So this is one of your tracks, is it?
This is one of my tracks. Put the love out there. We filmed it in Glastonbury. Produced by a guy called Xander. Trying to think when it came out. 2018, I think it was. 2019. Yeah, just a high vibe track, and
nice one to start us off on a Sunday morning. So Django, if you wouldn't mind, please, a bit, put the love out there for us.
Cool, you're off air.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go and listen to. I've only listened to what you've got up on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go and have a little listen to some other bits and pieces. I didn't realise you've got so much music out.
I thought I didn't have very much out. Definitely got to put some more stuff out there. I've got a track coming with a guy called Zen Lewis,
right?
Which I'm really looking forward to. That'll be in the next month, 6 weeks. And I'll be dropping an album, well, like an EP, September time. Finally, it's been a long time coming. So I've just been like distracted by other things. But yeah, looking forward to getting some music out there again.
Yeah, it's the one thing in the music industry. I've got quite a few friends who sort of work in it in different ways, from like bands to, you know, roadies to sort of producers and that, and they all say it's you've got to knuckle down and focus or it doesn't happen. You've just got to keep on and keep on banging on the door and keep banging on the door, and it's those who just keep banging on the door get there in the end.
That's it. Yeah, it's got to be done.
Exactly. Is that your main love in life then, music?
Yeah, like my mum's really musical. Like if you hum a tune or sing it, she could just pick it out on the piano.
Oh, right.
So she's like pretty gifted. My dad's like totally tone deaf, so I'm like somewhere in between. But yeah, I love my music. I love what it gives me. It gives me a lot of peace. It gives me a lot of joy. You know, it's just certain artists that I listen to. Like there's an artist called Londrell that we're going to see in London in September, and he made a track called Gratitude, and I think I heard it 2018, maybe in 2019, and like it just hit me. It actually brought me to tears. It just, oh my God, this is just such a. And then I started doing like gratitude meditations, like just giving thanks for everything, and that really helped me as well. Like you know, I think with mental health, like there's a lot of it's so misunderstood, but some of it is quite simple. It's
35
like
seconds to go.
It's what the power. Yeah, we'll wander into that if you like. I mean, mental health is probably one of my. I'm a PTSD trauma specialist, so I've like worked in mental health and mindset for about must be pushing 20 years now.
Wow.
And it is like you say, it's what you focus on, you get the result of. That's how the human system works. So be mindful as to what you're focusing on.
10 seconds.
I love that. I love that about gratitude. We'll wander into that because I've got a friend who has a different way of doing gratitude. That
Kindasound Radio, the station for a global community. Kindasound Radio, the station for a global community.
And you're live.
And welcome back to Kindasound this morning with my guest Jonny Darton, and we're talking all things everything with a bit of music chucked in, to be honest. But perception, reality, and creation, really, I suppose we should be calling this one. So, Jonny, after school, did you ever know what you wanted to do when you were at school? Did you have anything that you were sort of tuned into, or was it in the days of just leave school, get a job, crack on sort of thing?
You know what I wanted to be? This is a really weird one. I wanted to be a geologist. Okay. I used to read all the books on all like all the rocks and fossils and all the different parts of the earth, and I used to love all that. I used to literally read books from like the natural world. That's animals, plants, science. I read a lot of those books when I was a kid. But yeah, I wanted to be a geologist, and when I was a kid, we used to go. Me and my dad and my sisters, we used to go to the beach because I lived in near Brighton, basically.
Right.
A little village called Ferring in West Sussex. We lived there, and we used to go to the beach and just like find things on the beach, and it was like some of my happiest like early memories, you know. So yeah, when I was up to like teenage sort of years, I wanted to be a geologist. I didn't really know what it entailed and all this, and then I got more into like science and that, like biology. Actually got a place to study biological sciences at Plymouth, Plymouth Uni, but I didn't go because my parents were running their own business and they wanted me to be a part of it. It was networking instead, like network marketing, and
right.
Like, you know, I was like 18 and I thought I'd set the world on fire and blah blah blah, and it just didn't have any kind of knowledge of any of that stuff. And it didn't quite happen like that. But I sort of made a living from it, but nothing, you know, didn't hardly do anything with it really. So I just kind of drifted into sales. And that's where I am now still.
Okay, what type of sales are you in?
I'm in RAC. I sell breakdown cover. Yeah, that's what I do. 9 to 5 in the 3D realm.
in the 3D world. So when did you start getting into music and MCing then? When did that happen?
Yeah, so it was probably sort of early 2000s, maybe around 2003, I think it was. A guy at one of my dad used to go to these meetings, like these business meetings, and there was a guy called Craig there, and he said, "Oh, Jonny, you're into hip hop, aren't you?" Like, I was like, "Yeah," like I knew like Snoop and Dre and all that. He was like, "Have you ever heard of KRS-One?" I was like, "No, who's this?" And he gave me this CD, It was called the Sneak Attack, and I listened to that, and it just opened my mind to like what they call conscious hip hop.
Right.
And I started like, I think it was Temple of Hip Hop website, Temple of Hip Hop, and I went on there, and they were just talking all this like quite advanced knowledge, and I started looking into things, and that opened my awareness again. So yeah, I always sort of cite KRS as my reason for being an MC. So that's how I got into actually saying, right, this is what I want to do in maybe like early 2000s. And I just kind of, you know, slowly drifted along with it. Really, I've only sort of got like serious with it, I don't know, like last like 4 or 5 years, and I seem to be putting more of my energy into it, like naturally as I go along. But yeah, that's all I want to do really. This is all I want to do.
Conscious hip hop, then, could you describe it for those listening?
So conscious hip hop, how can you describe it? So it's more, it's music where there's a higher awareness. You're not just talking about the norms of, you know the whole perception
guns and hoes and stuff like that. Guns
and hoes, drugs, that life, and obviously that's massively promoted by the mainstream. And it's funny, like even in the UK, even if you take, you know, and I'll say it, even if you take like One Extra, like Radio 1 Extra, or BBC Introducing, any of these, like they're literally pushing the most low vibe possible music. Like they're literally pushing music that promotes, that promotes that lifestyle, which they glamorize, and kids think they're gonna, you know, come up off of that. You ain't gonna come up off of that. That's not how life works. But they promote that as a way out, but it's an illusion. You know, other than for the like 0.1% or whatever.
I think becoming aware of like the frequency and vibration of things has really made me sort of open my eyes and my ears to things over the last few years, because I can remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, I used to listen to a lot of like gangster rap. I always had it in my car, but I used to like the beat of it. Never really used to listen to the lyrics too much. And then now, if I ever put any of that on, there's only two. Far Side is one of them. I can listen to Far Side. But apart from that, all the other stuff I used to listen to, I literally physically cannot listen to it now. As soon as I put it on, it literally, the only way I can describe it is it sounds like poison. When you're listening to it, nothing feels good about the music anymore. And I find it really fascinating. The more I've sort of become more enlightened within myself about the human system, and I suppose the universe and quantum energy and all that, the more enlightened you become about it, it's interesting what changes around you and how your music changes. Not just your music as well, but that for me was one of the first things I noticed. Frequency-wise, I couldn't listen to certain things anymore because it made me actually feel bad. And I don't know if most people actually think about that when they listen to music.
I don't think most have that awareness, and I think, as you say, I completely agree with you on that one, because what goes in goes out. We are frequency modulators or generators, whatever you want to call it. The input we give ourselves will equal the output. So I don't consume any negativity knowingly. I won't listen to I won't listen to the radio. I will not watch the TV. I haven't in years, donkey's years. I only feed myself uplifting content ever. And there's a reason for that, because the world, the negativity will come in anyway. You can't get away. Like on my phone, there's little news things will flash up and it will say, you know, some negative thing that's happened. And I walked into where did I walk into? I go into blooming, you know, I go into Greg's to get like a decaf coffee or something in the morning when I go to work. You know, I have a coffee sometimes. You know, I'm human. But
we have to have a human experience.
We have to, exactly. We have to, because we are human physical beings. Yeah. But like, I went in there and like the first thing that comes on the news is like these people died here, and I'm like, it can't help but lower your vibration. It doesn't matter who you are. If you listen to that, a part of you goes towards feeling something for that. So if you can avoid, I'm not saying blinky yourself to what's going on in reality, but if the aliens landed tomorrow, we'll know about it through word of mouth. You don't need to be kept abreast of information. You don't need any of that stuff coming in. People think, oh yeah, but what if I miss out on something? You're not missing out on anything, because it's just pure propaganda which is only designed for one thing. And it ain't gonna give you any positive benefit at all. Yeah. Like that's what it is.
I love that, the feeding of yourself, because it is just like food. Whatever you're reading, whatever you're listening to, whatever you're watching, you know, the people around you who you're speaking to, the words you're using on the inside and outside, it's all feeding your energetic field. And it is that awareness of what you're feeding yourself on a daily basis can really transform your life. Especially, like you say, you touched on like mental health earlier. That was when I was in a break, actually, wasn't it? So when we were in the break, Jonny and I were just chatting briefly about sort of mental health, and whatever you focus on, you're going to get a result of. And I think that's the one part of learning that we should have in education, is teaching people, actually, if you want to change your state of being throughout the day, pay attention to what you're focused on. Because whatever you're focused on is going to give you a result.
As you said, we are energetic beings. And as more and more come into that awareness, we are able to, as you say, we create our reality through like energetic projection. Like what we are, we attract, or we become. So if you're always doom and gloom, and you're always like, what will your experience be? If you're super grateful and you're in a state of blissful receiving for your good experiences. Like I see it on social media a lot. Like people, I don't know if it's human nature or what it is, but people will be so energetically attached to a negative experience. Oh, this happened. Oh, I got a flat tire. Rah, 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 rah. And they'll make a massive status about it. But you very rarely see it the other way. So, I had the most fantastic day. Blah blah blah. This happened. I feel so blessed and grateful. Like we condemn or uplift ourselves through our own awareness, largely. I feel. Okay, and you might say, oh yeah, but what if something terrible happens? You're not going to feel positive, are you? Blah blah blah. Well, you're not, but you can elevate your baseline of happiness, or of how you feel.
Yeah, it's transmuting the energy. I look at it. Caroline Mice, MYSS. She was one of the ladies that when we did some training, her view on things was brought in a lot into the training room, because she does that, the energetics of healing, it's called. And she said, if you viewed your energy as money, so she said, if you imagine waking up every morning and like you've got 100 quid in your energetic bank account, and then every single thing you do throughout the day, whether it's a thought, whether it's an action, whether it's something that you're listening to, watching, conversations you're having, is costing you money. And it can either cost you money and you don't get a return on it, or you pay out and you get back. So she said, if you imagine waking up in the morning, and we're taught to share pain points. Oh, my knee hurts. Yeah, my back hurts. Oh, do you know what I mean? We're not taught to share like the good aspects. She said, if you imagine you get up in the morning, you turn the radio on, and you hear, like you've just said, something negative on the news, and because you've paid it attention, you've given it a £5. But because it's negative, you don't get your £5 back. So you've literally just given that £5, that negative experience £5. And then you go outside and someone walks up to you and goes, oh yeah, oh God, yeah, this happened to me today. And you go, oh yeah, well, this happened to me last week. You've just given them a £5 and you've not got your £5 back because it was a negative exchange. And she said, if you're in that, like the very pessimistic, oh, life's always hard, everything's always a problem, by halfway through the day, you could have done your 100 quid in energy really, really quickly. You've just ditched £100 on thoughts about people that you're jealous of or that you don't like. Oh yeah, don't like them. You've just given that person you don't like a £5. and that you're not getting it back, would you literally be walking down the street like with full knowledge of this, going, here you go, I hate you, have £5? Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't, would you? But she said, if you think about it like that, by the midday, you could be in deficit. Now you've got to take a mortgage out on your body for the rest of the day. So if you continue throughout the day, you've got no energy left to do that. So now you've got to take it, she calls it cellular energy. So now you've got a mortgage out on your body to start paying all these debts. She said, so when you think about it like that, at the end of the day, you could be like 500 quid in debt because you've been listening to like real negative news, chatting shit with people about people, you know, swearing about this and doing that and moaning and whinging and having a bit of road rage. She said, then your body's in debt. And before you get like reduced in the morning, it's got to repair that debt first. So, you know, she said people who've had traumatic events, like really negative ones, you can see they literally age overnight because they drain themselves of so much energy. But the nice thing is on the flip side, if you haven't got to go around saying to people, oh, I love you, everything's great, you know, like Von Trappland, but just that seeing something and having that thankfulness for it, like you said, a bit of gratitude. Like, oh, thank you for that. I'm really glad I can afford this coffee in the morning. Lovely. You've just given out a £5 and got a £5 back. So now you've got, you know, an extra £5 in your wallet. And so with just these little acts of paying attention to where your thoughts are and what's surrounding you, by the end of the day, you could actually have like loads of energy to really help repair the body when it goes into sleep. I just thought that was a lovely way of viewing your energy.
I love that. That's so powerful. That's so... Was it Caroline Myss? Was
Caroline
it?
Myss, MYSS, her name, the energetics of healing.
I love it. I love it. And literally in sales, we used to call it the juice tank. Like you've only got so much juice or energy you can use over a day, and obviously it gets depleted through people just being arseholes to you as they do in sales. People dickhead because you're a salesman, do you know what I mean? But I get it because we all hate salespeople, don't we? But like it's the same, like it's the same thing. It's an energetic exchange. You can either and it's called pay attention for a reason. Like you're going into a deficit if you're focusing on something negative, or you're going into, you know, you're putting it into a positive, like you're paying a dividend, aren't you? It'll give you something back if you're focusing on something in a good way. Or focusing on something good, sorry.
I like that, actually, that phrase you've just said. I love language anyway, but paying attention.
Paying attention.
Yeah, I love that, because what are you paying attention to? Yeah, that's a nice way to look at that. So Lucky Stars, next song this morning. Who wrote Lucky Stars? Because I haven't got an artist down with this one.
So I write all of the tracks.
These are all yours. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's always my lyrics. So Lucky Stars, again, that's quite a neat little segment. We didn't plan this, but yeah, because that's about gratitude. Lucky Stars is about gratitude, like waking up, breathing, giving thanks. So literally, like, if someone said to me, Johnny, what are the 2 bits of advice or 3 bits of advice you give to people? Like literally, I always say gratitude, and then I say breath work. So the first one I learned was gratitude, which really had a profound, you know, impact on me. So I wanted to kind of talk a bit about that in the music.
Yeah. And
then obviously the breath work, we can come on to that. Maybe we'll do
it afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah,
lovely. So Django, Lucky Stars, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Cool, you're off air.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, breath work is something I dip in and dip out of, Johnny. Never quite got. I do a lot of heart coherence. So I get up in the morning, I always spend like 10, 15 minutes making sure that the heart and brain connection is working correctly. So I sit and I've got a little monitor I clip on my ear. It's on an app on the phone and you watch it and breathe. It's from the Heart Math Institute.
Okay.
And just make sure you get the heart in a really coherent state before you do anything. I like to be in that level, balanced, functioning, listening, tuned in sort of state. But the breath work, I dip in and dip out because I've done the Joe Dispenza retreat. And he teaches you that spinal breathing, where you pull the breath from the base of the spine up, hold it at the pineal gland, and then pump and squeeze it up there, and then release. So I've done that one, but there's loads of different types of breath work, isn't there?
It's interesting you say that because I learned a breath work called, this is a mad one, I learned a breath work called Breath Work to Heaven, and it's literally like, it's 28 minutes long, yeah? So it's it's actually 3 rounds of 7 minutes. So the first one is flutter breath, which is like a weird where you're just kind of like that, like random breathing. And then the second one is the Tony Robbins, where it's like,
oh right, yeah.
And then the third one is what you're saying, is bringing up the energy, like the Kundalini or whatever, up to the third eye. And then the fourth bit is just observing. So being a one with the universe, and you're just, you get it's just a state of like bliss and just pure relaxation. And I was taught that by a guy called Gareth Bishop. And I do it now before I perform, because it just puts me in that beautiful state, and there's no fear there. So yeah, like I love breath work. Like breath work's super powerful. But that heart coherence, I've heard about this, but I've never actually looked into it. So I'm going to look into that now. So I appreciate that. I'm going to check that out.
No worries. It's similar to I suppose it gives you a similar effect to breath work, but obviously the heart's got 40,000 sensory neurites in it. It sends more signals up to the brain than the brain sends down. And through our schooling, we're taught to get in our head, stay out of our heart. But our heart this is brain number 1. The heart, this is brain number 3. The stomach's brain number 2.
25 seconds to go.
So yeah, I practiced heart coherence for a long time. But it's one of those things, I do that before I do a lot of motivational speaking. I'll be in the car on the way to the venue, just hand on heart, breathing, tuning in, making sure I'm like in tune with everything when I get there. I find it really powerful. Like massively. But the breath work, I keep saying I'm going to get into it, but I think it comes into your life. You know what I mean?
And you're live.
And welcome back to Kindasound this morning with Jonny Darton, talking all things universal and everything else, really, Jonny. So we're going to wander into. We just had a little chat about breath work while I was in the break, and I think that'd be somewhere. We've got some amazing systems in this human system that we walk around in that we don't even. Again, we're just not taught how to use. I love heart coherence. You love breath work. So would you like to just talk to the listeners about what you were talking to me about with the 4 stages of breath work that you do before you do a show?
Yeah. So in the mornings, I do the Wim Hof breathing. I do like 2 or 3 rounds. And then before I go on stage these days, I do one called Breathwork to Heaven, which is basically 3 rounds of 7 minutes. And there's these various techniques that you can do. Now, this is like quite powerful, really. It's just like giving there's a free information. But the first one is called flutter breath, which is like a random breathing, and you're literally like just in and out. And this is 7 minutes. You just got to keep it going. It's literally like that, like out, in and out through the nose, like super fast. And then the second one is called the all breath, like what's it called? Hall breath or something. So you're literally like in through the nose, out through the mouth. And that's for
like
7
Tony Robbins style breathing, isn't it? That he teaches.
Tony Robbins style breathing. Yeah. And then the last one is where you squeeze the pelvic floor muscles, is it? And you bring up the energy from the base of the spine to the third eye or to the pineal. And then the 4th stage is just observing. So literally you're just sitting there, eyes closed, and you're just connected. So you're just feeling, and you just feel that presence, and you just feel super connected to the universe. And I do it before I go on stage now. I've only learned it like very recently, and it's super powerful. It just puts you in that real place of connection. There's no fear there at all. Like I still get quite nervous before I go on stage, but that takes it all away.
Yeah, I remember the Joe Dispenza one, how he described that as well, which is the breathing from, like pulling the Kundalini up, basically. So you squeeze in from the perineum, and then imagine the breath going all the way up the spine, and then hold it at the top of your head. And then once you hold it there, you then like squeeze all your abdominal muscles, so they act as like a pump to pump the spinal fluid up. And then you hold it there again for as long as you possibly can. And then when you let it go, you get like a rush of energy through the body. And when you do it enough times, if you do it for like 10 minutes, It's absolutely phenomenal. But he said it can stimulate release of DMT. So all these people who go out and do trips and acid and things like that, you don't actually need to. If you want to have like a supernatural experience, you have all the chemistry in your own body to do it. You just have to know how to breathe and manipulate the body in a certain way to release it. Because I've had experiences like that where I've done the breath for like 10 minutes. And then, like you say, when you relax afterwards and you just observe with your eyes closed, then it's like, wow, where on earth am I going here? And it's been absolutely fascinating just through breathing.
Can you link that to me as well? Can you? It's Joe Dispenza, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll send you. I'll send you something over that'll.
Yeah, because and if you want to, I like to go deep into stuff, but if you look at it, this is what they're alluding to in a lot of religious texts, like in the Bible, and like the 33 and the numbers of vertebrae and the energy in the body and structures in the body. We can strengthen that connection with the divine or with God or whatever you want to, whatever your word for it is, through physiological processes. And a lot of this is alluded to in the Bible for those that have the eyes to see, as they say, or ears to hear. And a lot of it is just analogous to what's going on in the body. I
have a friend who said that to me, actually. He said, I'm actually, sort of the dog's scratching at the minute. I hope you can't hear that behind. I've had a friend who said, have you ever read the Bible? And I said, no. And there's a funny little story. When I came back from a retreat in Cornwall, I unpacked my car and I don't have a copy of a Bible. And in the boot of my car, in the corner at the back, there was a leather-bound Bible. And it's like, that's weird. It's like, I haven't got one. And I said to all my friends and that, all right, who put the Bible in my car? And like everyone was like, what are you talking about? So no one's owned up to it. But I've started reading it, and it's, when you read it from a different perspective of it's all sort of like metaphor and analogy for life, not actually written as in, I'm not trying to dismiss the Bible as in like the people weren't real, but there's a lot of information in there about, like you say, the workings of the body, the workings of the universe. But it's written in such a way, it's like in story form. I'm finding it quite fascinating, actually. Yeah. Quite enlightening. But like you say, with the body, the breathing isn't just for connecting in, is it? It stimulates, it creates more oxygen around the body. It's so good for mental health as well. This is the one thing I've heard, like people who are suffering from mental health issues, breath work is really beneficial.
And it's so simple. And people often say people's biggest objection is lack of time in it. But if you said to someone, it will take you literally like 7 minutes to do it, like 7 minutes in the morning, everyone can find 7 minutes to do some breath work. And another 3 to 5 minutes to do some gratitude. If you've got 10 to 50, if you've got 15 minutes, if you give me 15 minutes of your day, I can get you in a good place. Do you know what I mean? Like it's quite straightforward. I'm not saying it's like, it's going to heal everything, or there's some people that will be, they might have quite severe mental health, or they might have issues going on in their lives, and they've got past trauma that they're working through and that kind of thing, but it can only help. Like, these things are available to us. It's just having the want to do it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it is that the want to do it. I think we're in such a quick fix society where everybody wants everything now. Just wave a magic wand and it's all done. And they don't realise actually you've still got to put some work in. If you want a result, you have to put work in. If you want to build a house, you don't just put 3 bricks down and then stick some sticks over it for a roof because it'd fall over. It's like, come on, you got to put some effort in. High Vibes, another one of yours. High Vibes, yeah. So this one is with an MC called Inglorious Poet. Now we made a mixtape together in about 2007, which is a bit mad. It's like 16 years ago now. We were young, obviously very young kids at the time. No, but we made an album then, And I was like, who can I get on this track? So I hit this guy up. He's like, yeah, I'll jump on the track. And he came with a really good verse. Actually, he came with a really solid verse. And then originally with the hook, I wanted to get like a female vocalist on it. And I hit up a few people, I messaged a few people, and it just didn't come about. And then I randomly connected with this guy called Tom Prowse, who's actually a busker. He busks in Bristol, like for a living. And I sent him like the lyrics for it, and I was like, yeah, this is it. It's just got exactly the right vibe. So yeah, High Vibe. I really like this track actually, High Vibes. And it was filmed by a guy called C Double, Chris Wilkie, which is what's the name of the company? Candy Farm. So Candy Farm Productions is the videographer. Super artistic, like talented, creative guy. And I like the video for it as well, because at the end we're just kind of like, that's it. We're just kind of having a laugh of it. And it's just I just like this vibe. I just like the vibe on the track.
Perfect. So Django, a bit of High Vibes for us this morning, please.
Cool, you're off air.
Lovely job, thank you. Yeah, so where would you like to finish this morning? You want to have a little chat about what you're doing now, gigs you're doing?
Yeah, so I've done a couple of festivals. This is the first year I've actually done festivals. So I did Equinox, which was organised by Lance Murdoch, which is Rise Above. That was really, really cool. That was like camping in the woods. It was super cold. It was super cold, but that is in like Dorset way in South Over Woods.
Right.
So literally, and we took a while to find it because we couldn't find it basically. It was signposted, but like we took a few wrong turns and then we found it, and it's literally like miles into the woods, and you just kind of keep going. So did that one. Did one called Carry On Camping, organised by a guy called Tim Gill, really nice guy as well. On the truth, on the whole truth vibe. Tommy Coyle performed there as well, which is another truth artist. He's a really good artist. And then I'm doing one in Ireland called New Earth. So really looking forward to that. That's like end of August time. And yeah, like in Bristol, it's kind of like, I don't really get gigs in Bristol now because the Bristol scene is so cliquey. And it's like, they're all just like, they're all just kind of saying the same stuff. And I just don't really vibe with it anymore. It's weird now. I used to love going to open mics. Like I used to go to open mics like all the time, but I just don't see them. Like they don't seem to be promoted now, or maybe they're not happening, or maybe I just don't go to them. But
maybe you've just dimensionally shifted away from those type of vibration.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird one. It's like I don't see them guys come up on my Facebook really that much now. Like I don't seem to interact with them really. Like I might go again just to practice a few like new bars or whatever, but I just don't really feel it these days. When I just don't really relate to it. It's weird.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a lot of stuff that's. I definitely think there's some weird dimensional shift happening because there's a lot of stuff that I just don't see anymore. I think the higher frequency goes, that you just don't see it. I just tend to see happy people the majority of the time now. I rarely see anything sort of negative around me. I don't watch any of the videos or anything that are out anyway on any of the, 2020, I spent most of 2020 watching stuff. And it's like, what's happening? Oh dear God, do you know what I mean? We need to do something about it. And then I just thought, right, I know what I need to know. Gone. That's gone. Where do we want to go? That's all I focus on now, I think, is just where do we want to go, really.
20 seconds to go, and I'm giving you an extra 3 minutes so we can play the last song on the hour.
Nice one. Cheers, Django. He's good like that. He squeezes things in for us. This hour goes so quick, Johnny.
It's gone quick, isn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Kindasound Radio, the station for a global community.
And you're live.
And welcome back to the final, very short part of Kindasound this morning. I just want to get Jonny to just share what he's up to now, because we've talked a lot about Jonny MCing, but it'd be nice to know where he's been and where you can go and see him and how people can get hold of you. So what have you been doing, Jonny, and where can people find your work?
Okay, so I played, like we were talking in the break, I played my first festivals this year. So I played Equinox Festival, which was hosted by Rise Above. Played Carry On Camping, which was run by Tim Gill. Playing Carry On Camping again in August, and I'm also playing New Earth in Ireland, which is hosted by a lady called Shakti. She's had like 70 Telegram channels taken down. Like follow New Earth. Don't know how to say it. It's New Earth Ireland, which is EIRE. Air, is it Air?
Oh, Air, yeah. Oh,
so follow her. She's doing it. Literally, they're creating, like, you know, they're buying land, and they're talking to they're organizing the same thing in different countries in Europe, like off-grid stuff, and they're literally, and she just gets shut down. Like I couldn't even share her stories on Insta. Like it's a madness. So yeah, I'll be dropping a new album in September, and you can find me on Jonny Darton on Facebook, YouTube, and on Insta is the actual J Dart, because I'm on a bit of an egoic madness back in the day. But yeah, the actual J Dart on Insta. Yeah.
We'll put some of those links on. I'll get Django to put those links on the podcast, and we'll stick them on the video if you send them to me later.
I'll send them across, yeah.
Yeah. So just finally, I just want a bit of like future forward thinking. What have you seen has changed the most since 2020, since this whole Gong Show, like on a positive tip? What are you seeing now when you're out and about gigging and speaking to people?
So I've so when I've done festivals, that's been the time when I've connected with like-minders, so to speak, because these are conscious festivals, literally. And obviously they're set up to attract those kind of people that are aware of, that have that level of awareness, you know, not to say we're higher or we're better than people, but you know, there's different levels to awareness. And yeah, just the conversations I've been having with people, and people truly knowing what's going on, and people actually taking steps to, like Shakti with the New Earth stuff, like actually taking steps to look at how can we go against the system? How can we start to live another way? How can we live in another way without having to rely on what we feel we need from the system? Yeah, I've connected with some amazing people, man, like amazing people.
I think this is the nice thing of it. It's been a lovely journey, hasn't it, since then, just meeting. Sometimes you think you're the only one who's thinking like it, and then all of a sudden you realise that there's so many people who are just done with this current system. When you become aware of it, yeah. I'll tell you what hit me recently, which is something, obviously I've been aware of all this stuff, but Carol Vorderman did a little video stating about the wastage in the government with money. And under like old Doris, it was, I don't know, 11 billion wasted on just absolute shit. Under Rishi Sunak, like 22 billion has just been wasted. And I say to people, you know, do you know where your money for tax goes? Do you know, like, you know, where your council tax goes? I said, do you know where all these payments are going, or have you just never questioned it and you just keep dishing out thinking you have to pay this stuff? Because the thing is, if we ever want to change anything, we just have to take back responsibility and ownership for what we're doing and realise we're not owned. No one owns us. We are not owned, but we've allowed ourselves to be owned. So if we want to create a change, we have to come back to owning ourselves.
Boom. What can I say? Exactly. Couldn't put it better.
That's pretty much it. So on that note, guys, John, I just want to say thank you very much for joining me this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really appreciated. Thank you.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I hope the listeners have enjoyed. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in as usual. And obviously, this is going to go up on YouTube afterwards, so you'll get to see the video as well and what we chat about in the breaks. Django, thank you for producing as normally. And we're just going to leave it with never get the vaccine. Thank you very much, Django.
Thank you, bro.
Thanks, guys. Lovely stuff.
So I'll just stop